The mother-in-law, wanting to save money, stuffed a moldy newspaper into her grandson's diaper. This was no ordinary paper. It featured a renowned genius scholar. She believed that lining the diaper with it would guarantee her grandson became a prodigy. In my previous life, I saw my grandson covered in terrible rashes. I tore apart those toxic papers, spending all my dowry to heal him. But he failed his exams for 5 years straight, couldn't even get into a public college, and worse, he got a classmate pregnant. He refused to take responsibility, abusing and abandoning the girl's body. My mother-in-law secretly told him, "If you had gotten into university, none of this would have happened. It's all your aunt's fault. She swapped the newspaper for diapers, costing you your destiny as a prodigy." He believed her, pushing me off the rooftop. One life, two souls lost. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I discovered my grandson, Tony, covered in rashes. This time, I didn't just smile and hand her a stack of newspapers. I also conveniently grabbed the super glue bottle nearby. Mother was right, I thought. Sticking it tightly would make it even more effective. Watching my mother-in-law's eyes light up with glee, a faint smirk played on my lips. Let's see if the prodigy grandson Mrs. Hang so eagerly anticipates will turn into a demon that destroys her entire family. What do you know, you barren hen? This sacred paper, bearing the image of a genius scholar, is far more precious than any diaper you could buy. My mother-in-law grumbled, stuffing the moldy newspaper into Tony's diaper, all while complaining about my inability to bear children. She had always been like this, blindly believing in village superstitions. But she had no idea the horrific consequences her ignorant actions would unleash. Seeing Tony's body already covered in rashes, I knew how terrifying those lesions could become. "What are you staring at? Hurry up and help," she snapped, shoving me. "Can't bear children and no quick wits either." Seeing this familiar scene, I realized I had truly been reborn. I quickly smiled, handing her the stack of newspapers, and casually picked up the super glue bottle nearby. Mother was right, I thought. Sticking it on tighter makes it even more potent. A faint smirk touched my lips as I watched my mother-in-law's eyes gleam with malicious delight. In my previous life, this newborn grandson, almost losing his precious part asterisk due to this toxic paper, forced me to spend all my dowry, painstakingly healing him to preserve his dignity. It was a shame I treated him like my own son. He not only skipped school but also got a female classmate pregnant. I bore the family's pressure, dedicating everything to him, only for him to believe my mother-in-law's lie, that I had tampered with his genius destiny. He pushed me off the rooftop, taking 2 lives with one act. Gazing at Tony's already swollen bottom and my mother-in-law's triumphant smile, a cold smirk played on my lips. This time, I wanted to see if this grandson, who would lose his asterisk precious part asterisk, would truly become a prodigy or a complete imbecile. Damn it, I could hear Tony crying all the way from afar. "You sit around all day doing nothing, can't even take care of a child." My husband, Darren, stormed in, slamming the door, his face etched with impatience. I saw the fresh hickey on his neck, and a chill settled deep in my heart. Only after I died did I learn the truth. The grandson, I believed to be his sister's child, was actually the son of his mistress, whom he kept outside, merely using it as an excuse to bring him home. I calmly said, "It's okay, I'm just changing Tony's diaper." He spotted the moldy newspaper beneath Tony's bottom and immediately raged. "Where did all the money I earned go? You can't even buy diapers. Are you itching for a beating again, Sarah?" I found it laughable. "You give me only $500 a month for household expenses, not even enough for groceries and daily necessities, yet you eagerly buy your mistress a designer bag worth $500,000. I raised my hand, blocking his slap. My mother-in-law interjected, "What does this hussy know? The diapers she buys are all covered in foreign scribbles, who knows what's printed on them. Clearly not good quality. What if they harm my precious grandson? This is a special newspaper I went back to the village to get. It has a genius scholar printed on it. It's guaranteed to turn him into a prodigy." In her eyes, imported baby diapers were inferior to this toxic newspaper. She snatched the glue bottle from my hand with a triumphant smirk and handed it to Darren. "Good wife you found there. Clumsy hands. You stick it on real tight for grandma." Darren stood frozen, hesitation clouding his face. "Mother, I've never heard of anyone putting newspapers under a baby's bottom. Is that really okay? Or maybe Sarah should ask a doctor?" My mother-in-law's eyes immediately bulged. "Ask a doctor. Did I ever ask a doctor? Didn't I raise you perfectly fine all by myself? Everyone in the village says this paper is incredibly potent. He won't even need to study to become a prodigy. You'd rather believe this hussy than your own mother." My husband's brows furrowed. "Mother, I didn't mean it that way." That was it. My mother-in-law immediately began hitting her chest and stomping her feet, as if she were about to ram her head into a pillar. "Oh, dear heavens, this old woman is useless. I struggled to raise you, only to be scorned in the end. I might as well just die." Darren, terrified, rushed to support her. I chimed in, "Honey, let's just listen to Mother. She has experience, what she says must be right." He shot me a venomous glare, unleashing all his fury on me. "Do you have to be so talkative? Sarah, of course, my mother is right." He followed his mother-in-law's instructions, spreading a thick layer of glue on the newspaper and firmly pressing it onto Tony's bottom. I secretly chuckled. Stuck this tightly, my grandson's asterisk precious part in this life is probably beyond saving. "Mother, why are there so many rashes on Tony's body?" Darren stood by, flustered and helpless. Tony's lower body was bright red, and he was wailing nonstop, his cries so loud they could shatter the roof. My mother-in-law, casually chewing on sunflower seeds, gloated, "Rashes? That's the divine newspaper manifesting. The more rashes, the smarter the child. Everyone in the village says so." She then gestured for Darren to get more glue. "Stick the newspaper even tighter." I leaned in to observe. Several rashes had burst, pus and blood mixing with the super glue, making the ink on the paper stick firmly to his asterisk precious part asterisk. My mother-in-law stubbornly forbade bathing him, claiming the divine energy from the paper needed to absorb into his skin to work. A bath would render it useless. Darren, hearing Tony's desperate cries, finally couldn't bear it anymore. "Tony is crying too hard, Mother. Maybe we should stop." "Stop it, you fool." My mother-in-law grabbed a handful of sunflower seeds and flung them at Darren's face. "My precious grandson is about to become a prodigy, and you want to stop? It's just a few rashes, a little pain, he can endure it." Then she spat 2 globs of saliva into her palm, mixed with leftover vegetables and rice from lunch. She rubbed her hands together and smeared the foul-smelling concoction directly onto Tony's raw, ulcerated skin. "Grandma's medicine is the most effective. One rub and the pain will be gone instantly." As the disgusting saliva was applied, Tony's cries grew even louder. I had to clench my palms tightly, my fingernails digging deep into my flesh, to keep from laughing out loud. The small pain reminded me of my past. I was once an excellent journalist, but under the pressure from my mother-in-law and husband, I was forced to stay home, day after day, preparing for pregnancy, taking care of my grandson. Ultimately, I was pushed from the rooftop, my ideals shattered into thin air. Now, every action of my mother-in-law was fodder for my article. This time, I would use these horrifying details as stepping stones for my career, making them pay a steep price. I watched my husband jump up in worried helplessness, a faint smirk playing on my lips. Who would have guessed that tomorrow he would even force another bowl of prodigy soup down Tony's throat? It wasn't even dawn yet, and my mother-in-law was already bustling in the kitchen. In the pot, burnt incense ash and talismans were boiling, emitting a pungent, acrid smell. Once it boiled, she poured it into a large bowl, blew on it twice, and eagerly spoon-fed it to Tony. Darren wrinkled his nose at the smell. "Mother, what is this? It's pitch black. Don't let Tony drink it, he'll get a stomachache." My mother-in-law glared. "This is our village's secret recipe, the prodigy soup." I went through so much trouble to get it. Prodigies must drink divine soup. It guarantees my precious grandson will be exceptionally intelligent. Darren quickly winked at me, wanting me to help dissuade her, wanting me to be the bad guy against his mother. I smiled, adding fuel to the fire. "Mother, don't blame Darren for not believing you. After all, big sons don't listen to their mothers, do they? Just listen to him." Hearing this, my mother-in-law immediately exploded in anger. She gripped Tony's chin tightly. "Getting bold, aren't we? Don't believe your mother anymore? This bowl of soup must be finished today. You'll see when he becomes a prodigy." The black soup streamed down Tony's mouth, and he choked, his eyes rolling back, face turning bright red. Darren tried to grab the bowl but was elbowed away by his mother-in-law. The entire bowl of incense ash soup was forced into Tony's mouth. Not long after, Tony suddenly convulsed, foamed at the mouth, and quickly passed out. Darren's face turned ashen. He frantically called for an ambulance while with his other hand he tried to make Tony vomit. "It's done for, hurry, vomit it out, how dare you?" My mother-in-law, like a ruffled hen, lunged forward, clutching Tony tightly. My precious grandson is absorbing divine energy. Don't you dare ruin it. Darren stomped his feet in fury but was helpless. At the hospital, the doctor took one look and his expression immediately changed. Drinking incense ash again? My mother-in-law initially nodded proudly, then shook her head. Not incense ash, it's prodigy soup. The doctor's eyes widened. He turned to the nurse. Quickly, get him to the gastric lavage room. This is the third case this week. Half an hour later, the doctor rushed out, his face pale green. What happened to the child's lower body? Why is it so ulcerated? What else did you do to him? Darren stammered. We just put newspaper under him. Newspaper? The doctor's voice shot up. Printer ink contains lead and benzene, and you put it under a child's bottom? He yanked off the newspaper. Tony's skin was stuck to it, covered in black ink, a horrifying sight. The glue had allowed the toxins to deeply penetrate his skin. Immediate surgical removal is required, otherwise it will be life-threatening. Hearing this, my mother-in-law lunged at the doctor, tearing at his white coat. You dare cut off my precious grandson's precious part? I'll kill you. Darren's face was grim. He slapped his mother-in-law hard. Isn't this enough? Mother, you've harmed Tony to this extent. Isn't it enough? First the divine newspaper, then the prodigy soup. I think you deliberately harmed him. Are you satisfied now? Darren's hand trembled as he yelled at his mother-in-law. She collapsed to the floor, covering her face, her lips trembling. I only wanted what was best for him. This damned hospital just wants to scam us for money. Darren couldn't listen anymore. As if all his strength had been drained, he slumped into a chair. I observed coldly. Suddenly, my mother-in-law's cloudy eyes darted around, a glint of calculation flashing within. I smirked. This old hag is about to pull another trick. Darren wanted a son to carry on his lineage, not a cripple who had lost his precious part. Since returning from the hospital, he came home every day with fresh hickeys on his body. It seemed he was urgently practicing with his mistress to have another child. Sarah, he roared, kicking open my door. You reek of alcohol. Your dowry is at least $100,000, right? That damned hospital calls me every day. Hurry up and pay the outstanding medical bills. Isn't it your fault for not watching the child carefully? I lowered my head, feigning tears. All my money has gone into family expenses. There's nothing left. I glanced at his reaction, then hesitated. But, Mother, his eyes lit up. The very next day, he vanished, taking my mother-in-law's pension money with him. He didn't show his face for half a month, so he naturally had no idea what his mother-in-law was doing at home, diligently nurturing the prodigy. If you don't memorize this poem today, you won't get any bowsy. You good for nothing, you might as well starve to death. My mother-in-law brandished a whip, striking Tony hard. The boy had become gaunt, his eyes filled with terror, looking as if he were about to breathe his last. Perhaps the fear stimulated his potential. Tony, who hadn't even learned to speak, actually stammered out a line of a poem. My mother-in-law was overjoyed, tossing the whip aside and slamming it against the wall. Did you hear that? My precious grandson can read poetry. This medicine truly works, so what if he lost that? Wait until he becomes a genius scholar. I'll be the grandmother of a scholar. I smiled obsequiously. Mother, your medicine is truly miraculous. When my husband comes back, he'll surely apologize to you. My mother-in-law pondered, then suddenly gritted her teeth. But it's still not enough. I must let my son witness it with his own eyes. Yes, when he returns, I'll have Tony recite 100 poems on the spot. In the following days, Tony's life became worse than an animal's. If he couldn't memorize a new poem, my mother-in-law's whip would lash his scar-covered back. He cowered in a corner, looking at me like a freezing stray dog, his eyes filled with pleading. Tony, I lowered my voice, feigning pity and sighing. Grandma won't let you eat. I feel so heartbroken seeing this. I specially hid some food for you. Saying this, I spooned a large bowl of plain porridge. Eat quickly, don't let Grandma find out. He gratefully opened his mouth wide, looking at me with absolute dependence. And when he heard the words, Grandma, a flash of hatred flickered in his eyes, making me unable to suppress a smirk. Less than 2 months later, Darren returned home. He looked utterly drained, as if excessive indulgence had sucked all the life out of him. My mother-in-law proudly presented the disfigured grandson, who recited 100 poems on the spot. A prodigy truly miraculous. Darren excitedly slapped his thigh. Mother, your medicine is truly amazing. That very night, they filmed a short video. Tony, reciting poems, began dreaming of becoming an online celebrity. The next day, the video went viral. I sat on the living room sofa, coldly watching my mother-in-law's joyful antics. In reality, the video's virality was entirely due to me secretly spending $100,000 to buy views. My mother-in-law clutched her phone, laughing so hard her dentures almost fell out. Darren was also ecstatic, completely oblivious. "Look, 1 million likes already?" I observed the fresh whip marks on Tony's body, immensely satisfied. Because I knew the intelligence Tony displayed in the video was merely the result of my mother-in-law's relentless beatings. Fly as high as you can. The higher you fly, the harder you'll fall. As the video gained traction, Tony was hailed as a child prodigy, amassing 800,000 fans. Recently, advertisers even came to their doorstep. Seeing their joyous expressions, I merely shook my head. Some people don't understand that the wealth that comes their way can be a sweet trap, because when the fake becomes real, flying too high is not a good thing. Darren sat opposite me, legs crossed, and threw a divorce paper onto the table. Seeing his arrogant demeanor after striking it rich, I let out a cold laugh. "You want to divorce me?" "Yes, I want to divorce you." I lowered my head and smirked. Of course, I knew why he wanted a divorce now. His useless son had suddenly become a cash cow. All that awaited them was immense wealth. When people get rich, the first thing they do is kick out the person beside them, and I was the first one he kicked. My mother-in-law chimed in, feigning sincerity as she patted my hand. "Sarah, people in the village say your marriage wasn't on an auspicious day, which is why you haven't had children. Get a divorce first, then find a good day to remarry. Don't worry, it's just a fake divorce." Seeing Darren about to contradict his mother-in-law, I pulled my hand away from hers. "Mother, what do you mean by that? A divorce is a divorce. There's no such thing as a fake divorce. Furthermore, I've contributed a lot to this family over the years. What isn't mine, I won't take a single cent of, but what belongs to me, I won't give up an inch." My mother-in-law, publicly embarrassed by me, angrily stood up, raising her hand to slap me. I stood up, gently patting my own face. "Mother, don't you want to hit me? Go ahead and try. Let's see if I gain more or less from this slap. Half of this house and all the money belong to me. I want it all." My mother-in-law, realizing logic wouldn't work, began to throw a tantrum, collapsing to the floor and wailing. "What a curse! I told you from the very beginning not to marry her. You wouldn't listen and insisted on marrying her, and now look. She can't bear children, and now we have to split the money with her. Money. There's no money. Life. You can have my life. I'd rather die than give you a single cent." I laughed, tearing the divorce papers Darren had placed before me into shreds and tossing them into the air. "Fine, then I'll listen to Mother. No divorce." Just a few minutes later, the video of Tony reciting poems that they had just posted exploded again. Hearing the notifications from their phones, my mother-in-law and my husband scrolled through the screen, counting the skyrocketing likes and followers, laughing nonstop. They exchanged glances as if they had a plan. "We can give you some money, but only $100,000. I advise you not to push your luck. This is the most we can offer." I smiled faintly, clapped my hands, picked up my bag, and walked out the door, leaving only one sentence. "You're the one who wants a divorce, not me. If you can't go through with it, then everything in this house is partly mine." Sitting in my car, scrolling through the comment section of Tony's poetry video, my fingers quickly caught a lamenting comment. "So what if you're famous? Does that mean you can beat people without consequence? Their genius child is actually a devil. He not only injured my son but also disfigured my daughter. This genius child is a demon in human skin." Seeing netizens continuously attack this comment, I used a secondary account to like and follow the commenter. Genius demon. Let this comment section fester a little longer. I turned the key, pressed the accelerator, and drove off. Because now, I had more important things to do. Human hearts are treacherous. Even those who have slept side by side for many years will hurt others for their own gain. Let you all fight amongst yourselves. It's far more satisfying than me doing it myself. I ordered 2 coffees and looked at the seductive woman sitting opposite me, Darren's mistress, Linda. "Linda, what do you want with me?" She took off her sunglasses, looking at me with the arrogant air of someone superior. And she was, indeed, superior, someone who could sleep with a man for free and still not have a title. If that wasn't superiority, what was? "I advise you not to be unreasonable. Divorce my husband quickly." Hearing her possessive tone, I let out a soft chuckle which unexpectedly made her a little embarrassed. "Your husband? How intimate. As his legal wife, I wasn't aware you'd been officially recognized. Haven't you heard? In love, the one who isn't loved is the real third wheel. You are the third wheel, so why are you so shameless?" Darren is about to divorce you. What right do you have not to divorce him? I'll tell you the truth. Tony is my son, and I don't mind telling you I'm pregnant again. The doctor said it's also a boy. There's no longer any room for you in this house, so get out. Linda gently stroked her belly, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Pregnant again. It seemed Darren had been diligently plowing all this time. His efforts hadn't been in vain. How would Tony feel if he knew he was just a tool for making money, to be abused at will, and that his parents' love was now for his younger brother? My phone screen slowly lit up. It was a message from Darren, and an idea sparked in my mind. I'm talking to you, why are you being so disrespectful? Hearing Linda's words, I scoffed, suddenly holding my phone up in front of her. I forgot to tell you that your husband just texted me, begging me not to divorce him. Darren hasn't contacted you in a long time, has he? He also won't let you seek him out. So only what you seize is truly yours, otherwise it's just self-deception. The woman was furious. Watching her grab her purse and storm off in a rage, the smirk on my lips slowly faded. Darren's message clearly displayed on my phone. Sarah, I've thought it over carefully. We won't divorce. Let's live well together. What was he doing? Playing the fox, giving a New Year's greeting to a chicken, no good intentions at all. Darren was always dark-hearted. Saying this now simply meant he didn't want to split the money or the house. Well then, let the mistress come to the house to demand recognition during the new year. Let's see if he can give her a satisfactory answer. Back in my car, picking up my phone, I found public opinion had already begun to severely ferment. The victim's post read, "The prodigy Tony from the kindergarten inexplicably beat my son and used a compass to disfigure my daughter. We are just ordinary people. Do we deserve to be bullied by a celebrity?" Below it were images of their injuries. 2 children covered in bandages, cowering heartbreakingly on a hospital bed. It had already received several million shares. There was no doubt Tony had done this. Constantly beaten by his mother-in-law at home, then seeing classmates showered with parental love, his psychology twisted. He mimicked what he endured, unleashing his fury on them. I let out a cold laugh. In my previous life, he pushed me off the rooftop without hesitation, all because of a few words from my mother-in-law. As soon as I got home, I saw my mother-in-law on the sofa, looking at her phone. Using voice input, she was angrily cursing, "Nonsense. Does your bastard child deserve to be compared to my family's prodigy? You're unlucky, you deserve to die, you good for nothing. You must have seduced my precious grandson. Disfigurement serves you right, so you won't grow up and fool around with worthless men." Netizens, initially skeptical of her vulgar comments, now rallied to the side of Tony's classmates. In an instant, the comments section was flooded with vitriol. Never underestimate the sharp tongues of netizens. Facing such language, they could curse 100 times filthier than my mother-in-law. I watched my mother-in-law tremble with anger, almost bursting into laughter. An evil person racking their brain is still no match for an idiot's sudden idea. It seemed my mother-in-law was both stupid and malicious, effectively exposing herself even better than if I had done it. I smirked, satisfied, and went into my room to purchase $100,000 worth of traffic for the post by Tony's classmate. Not long after, I heard Darren angrily stomping downstairs. "You damn old hag, what the hell are you posting? We're being savagely cursed at now, do you even realize that?" Which one of my words wasn't true? Those husses deserved it. Darren ignored her, pacing back and forth in the living room. "Damn it, I have to think of something, or how will we make money later?" An hour later, public opinion truly reversed. I frowned and opened Darren's newly started live stream. Initially, the comments were full of curses, all saying to let the prodigy beat people. Then, my mother-in-law appeared before the camera, bowing deeply, her eyes red and tearful. "Dear netizens, I am a country bumpkin, honest my whole life. I merely spoke foolishly when I saw someone slandering Tony. This is all this old woman's fault, but Tony is truly innocent." At this moment, Darren brought Tony forward. "Everyone, Tony also has injuries, no less than those 2 children. They kicked and damaged Tony's precious part first, that's why he had to fight back. Otherwise, should he just wait to be beaten to death by those 2 brats?" He pulled up Tony's shirt, revealing a body covered in bruises. That spot was also empty, bandaged with gauze. Tony's face was filled with terror, as if he had been severely traumatized. They were only injured, disfigured, but Tony lost his dignity. I immediately realized they had simply subjected Tony to another cruel beating to twist the truth and gain sympathy. It was utterly disgusting. But this tactic was indeed vicious and effective. After they ended the live stream, the comments completely changed. "Oh, I'm crying, poor little Tony. That family is truly twisting white and black for clout without any shame. I wasted my time defending them yesterday. I've already reported their account. We must bring justice back to Tony." My mother-in-law and Darren had put on quite a show. This live stream earned them a fortune. The curses, in turn, shifted 1,000-fold towards Tony's classmates. Netizens went wild, accusing them of seeking fame without morals. No matter how they explained, no one listened, and their family information was leaked. In just 3 days, that one-swarm family of 4 was shattered. The mother of the 2 children fell into severe depression, and the father's company image was affected, leading to his dismissal. He jumped from the company rooftop. I heard the commotion outside the door and quietly turned off the news interface. Here already, even less restrained than I thought. I thought it was Linda who had arrived. She strutted in, her belly clearly showing. Behind her, a moving company was carrying out all her luggage. She wore sunglasses, her face radiating certainty of success. "Darren, you made money and now you're trying to kick me out? I'm telling you, I know what you all did to Tony. Either this barren hussy leaves, and I move and the child in my belly is yours too, or you just wait and see." She gently pointed at me, her eyes full of hidden meaning. I hadn't expected the usually docile mistress to come to the house demanding recognition. Darren's forehead immediately broke out in cold sweat. He didn't want to split money with me, but he was also afraid Linda would expose everything. My mother-in-law, however, was overjoyed. Tony, having lost his precious part, was a cripple only useful for making money, unable to carry on the family name. She looked at me with contempt. "This is my son's true daughter-in-law, a barren hen. Divorce my son immediately." I smiled and nodded, extending a hand. $500,000. Give me $500,000. I'll divorce today and move out immediately. Darren was still hesitant, but my mother-in-law, eager to embrace her plump new grandson, quickly transferred the money to me on her phone, telling me to get out fast. Seeing the money in my account, I smirked, signing the divorce papers without hesitation. Linda, satisfied, told Darren to move her luggage, and my mother-in-law insisted on following, fearing any harm to her golden belly. In an instant, only Tony and I were left in the living room. I crouched down, looking straight into his eyes, and gently said, "Tony, your parents have a new baby now. Tony must be good, okay? Be a good boy and recite poems. That way, Grandma will give you food. Oh, if only Grandma hadn't filmed videos of you, you wouldn't have suffered so much." I feigned pity, shook my head, and turned to leave. As I pulled my suitcase out the door, I waved to the 3 busy people outside, then stopped at the door of the house next door, took out a key, and turned around with a surprised look. "Oh, what a coincidence, we meet again." Watching their stunned faces, I elegantly pushed open the door and stepped inside. Through the peephole, I saw Darren's face, purple as a pig's liver. "Didn't expect that, did you? The house I bought earlier was specifically so I could enjoy your upcoming tragedy." As I predicted, at 2:00 a.m., the prodigy, Tony, launched a live stream. This time, it wasn't my mother-in-law or Darren on screen, but Tony himself. He revealed the scars on his body, his face swollen. He looked at the camera, aggrieved. "Aunties and uncles, I'm so hungry. I couldn't memorize the poem. Grandma didn't give me food and hit me. My classmates also bullied me and kicked me here." He pointed to his empty groin, crying nonstop. "I couldn't memorize the poem. Dad said I'm useless and he'll strangle me tomorrow." He lifted his tear-filled eyes, holding out his dirty hands towards the screen. "Aunties and uncles, I'm so hungry, I want to eat." The comments section immediately exploded. "Damn, this is child abuse. Let's expose them, guys. Tomorrow their family business will collapse. Those 2 children truly deserve to die. They're even using their father's suicide to gain sympathy. Disgusting." I let out a cold laugh. Indeed, a born seed of evil. Lying without batting an eye, slapping his own face to make it red, continuing to lie that his classmates had damaged his precious part, and even fabricating the story that Darren would strangle him tomorrow, all to gain sympathy. Not long after, netizens posted about the brain-boosting pills they advertised being fake and shoddy. My child ate 2 pills and had to be hospitalized. The next day, Darren woke up to shocking news on his phone. "Damn it, Tony, get out here." He rushed downstairs, about to drag Tony out for a beating when he heard furious banging at the door. Looking through the window, several burly men had dumped red paint on the ground and were smashing the door with baseball bats. "Damn it, you sold products that put my child in the hospital. Get out here." Darren was terrified. He quickly shut the windows and piled furniture against the door. At this moment, my mother-in-law also rushed downstairs in a panic. "Son, what is going on? The advertisement we just took on, why are they demanding $2 million in breach of contract compensation today?" Darren collapsed to the floor, hearing this. Linda also came out, clutching her belly and shouting loudly at the door. "You all leave now. If you don't, we're calling the police." The banging outside grew even more violent. "HMPH, we'll just have to catch all you child-abusing scum of society first." The three of them watched the door about to be broken down, trembling with fear. I enjoyed the scene through the surveillance cameras I had already installed in their house. My mood was incredibly good. A few days later, people outside still came in waves. They were trapped inside their house, unable to go out. Luckily, they had been blinded by greed and signed dozens of advertising contracts in just a few days. Now, the breach of contract fees were astronomical. Darren was driven to a dead end and had to borrow from loan sharks. Debt collection calls rang constantly, and another group of debt collectors gathered outside. That day, Darren quietly went up to the rooftop and jumped. After Darren's death, the people outside gradually dispersed. My mother-in-law and Linda became pariahs. As soon as they stepped out the door, people would point and whisper, "Look, that's the child-abusing family from the internet. How dare they still go out? Oh my, how unlucky, stay away from them." They stopped going out, staying home to wholeheartedly guard Linda's belly. "Grandma, when Aunt Sarah was here, nothing went wrong with our family. Why did everything change when Mother Linda came?" My mother-in-law didn't know about Tony's midnight live stream. She only felt that ever since Linda arrived, the house had changed, and she was already secretly furious. Tony's remark hit a nerve. She threw an apple, hands on her hips, cursing, "It's this jinx, it's all her fault." Linda, who was pregnant, happened to walk by and heard these words, her face turning green. "You damn old hag, what did you say? Are you blaming me for your foolish actions?" "If I had known your family was so disgusting, I would never have married Darren. I would have aborted this baby long ago. You dare? If you dare harm my precious grandson in any way, I will never forgive you." My mother-in-law shrieked and lunged at her. Seeing this, Linda grabbed my mother-in-law's hair tightly. My mother-in-law screamed in pain, wildly swinging the fruit knife in her hand. Thud! Linda fell in disbelief, blood quickly gushing from her pregnant belly. Even at this point, my mother-in-law stood frozen. "Prodigy, my precious grandson?" I watched through the surveillance camera, a smirk playing on my lips. 10 minutes later, I kindly called an ambulance for them. The baby couldn't be saved, and Linda lost too much blood. The emergency resuscitation was unsuccessful. My mother-in-law, for intentional injury, was sentenced to life imprisonment. It was rumored that because of her notorious arrogance online, she was abused in prison and died of unknown causes not long after. Excellent. Everything was going according to my plan. For the final step of my plan, I took Tony's hand and walked to the police station. "Auntie, aren't we going to visit Grandma in prison?" Seeing the panic and calculation flicker in that wicked child's eyes, I calmly told the police officer, "Hello, officer. I believe Tony poses a significant risk to public safety. I'm here to report him. I'll tell you everything, how he fabricated injuries, manipulated public opinion, and incited his grandmother to murder." The officer's eyes, initially skeptical, gradually became serious. "You're lying." Tony couldn't take it anymore and turned to run, but my hand gripped him tightly. He was in so much pain he couldn't breathe. "Tony, do you know how much it hurt when you pushed me off the rooftop in my previous life? 1,000, 10,000 times more than this." Finally, after a psychological evaluation, this kindergarten prodigy, due to prolonged abuse, was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. Watching him being escorted into the car and driven to the mental hospital, I waved gently through the glass, my eyes filled with cold indifference. I went home and published an article. I had fully restored the truth of the incident, solely to clear the names of the children's family whom my grandson had bullied. I used surveillance video of my mother-in-law beating Tony and Tony's mental hospital diagnosis to prove who the real victim was. The article immediately caused a sensation. Netizens discovered that those two siblings were the true geniuses deserving of the title prodigy. They were given the opportunity to test into and skip grades in a key high school. Their mother, who had suffered from severe depression, gradually recovered, founding a charity organization against cyberbullying. Overcoming online abuse, a bright future awaited them. I was hailed as an angel journalist, becoming famous overnight. Invitations from major media outlets flooded my inbox. The mental hospital called to say, Tony has committed suicide. I said nothing, only bowed my head to add a crucial update to my most important article on folk remedies, using my grandson as a real-life example. I had started writing it on the very first day of my rebirth. How newspaper introduced toxins into an infant's body. How incense water caused lead poisoning. I used scientific knowledge to explain the ignorance of these methods. This article ultimately won Journalism Award of the Year and was broadcast as public service information on television. The entire country embraced a wave of scientific parenting, saving thousands of children from danger. At the peak of my career, I single-handedly opened a media company specializing in exposing the dark corners of society that others dared not publish. A year later, carrying light luggage, I left the company. Looking at my round-the-world travel plan and plane tickets in hand, I smiled sincerely. In the days that followed, I would live only for myself.